The prison cell was no more than a box, concrete floor, steel bars, and a small barred window near the ceiling. Robben Island was a place built to break men. But Nelson Mandela was not an ordinary man. He was 46 years old when he entered that cell in 1964. He would be 72 when he walked out. But his story doesn't begin in prison. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born in 1918 in a small village called Mvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His first name, Rolihlahla, meant troublemaker, and perhaps it was fate. He grew up in a world where white South Africans ruled over the black majority through a brutal system called apartheid, laws that separated people by race and stripped black South Africans of almost every right. Mandela's early life was shaped by both tribal tradition and British colonial education. He was intelligent, curious, and deeply proud of his heritage. He became a lawyer, but more than that, he became a fighter for justice. In 1944, he joined the African National Congress, the ANC, a political movement determined to fight apartheid. For years, Mandela and his comrades tried peaceful protests, petitions, and public speeches. But the government didn't listen. Instead, it responded with violence, arrests, and murder. So Mandela made a choice. He helped form an armed resistance group called Umkhonto we Sizwe, the Spear of the Nation. Their mission was sabotage, not terror. They targeted government infrastructure, never civilians. Still, the regime labeled him a terrorist. In 1962, he was arrested. 2 years later, he was sentenced to life in prison. At his trial, Mandela gave a speech that echoed around the world. "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Then the cell door closed behind him. At Robben Island, Mandela and other political prisoners were forced to work in a lime quarry under the blazing sun. The rock dust damaged their lungs and their eyes. The guards tried to humiliate them, to dehumanize them. Letters were rare, visits even rarer. Food was poor. Conditions were worse for black prisoners than for Indians or mixed-race inmates. It was apartheid even behind bars. But Mandela refused to be broken. He turned prison into a place of learning. He read everything he could. He debated politics with fellow inmates. He taught the young men around him discipline, strategy, and above all, dignity. When denied long pants because of his race, he protested. When mistreated, he endured, but never submitted. He once said, "I went for a long holiday for 27 years. I had no choice." It was a joke, but inside it was a truth. He had chosen to accept the consequences of fighting for freedom, and he would never regret it. Outside, South Africa began to change. The world was watching. Protests spread across the globe. Economic sanctions were placed on the apartheid regime. Countries refused to trade. Companies pulled out. The pressure grew year after year. By the 1980s, the government was cracking. Protests inside South Africa reached a boiling point, and Mandela, still behind bars, became the symbol of the struggle. In 1985, the South African president offered him release on one condition: he must renounce violence. Mandela refused. He wrote, "What freedom am I being offered while the organization of the people remains banned? Only free men can negotiate. A prisoner cannot enter into contracts. He would not walk out of prison just to abandon the cause." It would take 5 more years before they came back to him, this time with no conditions. On February 11, 1990, the world watched as Nelson Mandela walked out of Victor Verster prison. His raised fist, a symbol of resistance. His smile, a sign of hope. He had spent 27 years in prison, but his spirit was intact. Now came the real test. South Africa was a powder keg. Violence between political groups was rising. White extremists threatened civil war. The apartheid system was dying, but chaos threatened to take its place. Mandela chose peace. He began negotiations with the very government that had imprisoned him. He urged calm when others called for revenge. He shook hands with his former jailers. He understood something few did. Mandela believed in justice, but never in vengeance. In power, he was humble. In opposition, he was principled. He once said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." He let go of hatred, even when he had every reason to hold on to it. He stepped down in 1999, refusing to be a ruler for life. In his later years, he became a global statesman, advocating for peace, education, and the fight against HIV/AIDS. He continued to inspire until his final breath. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. The world wept, not just South Africa, but every nation. Because Mandela's life was not just a South African story, it was a human story, of struggle, of sacrifice, of unimaginable patience, 27 years in prison, a lifetime of resistance, and in the end, a legacy built not on bloodshed, but on forgiveness. Because some men are born great, some achieve greatness, and some, like Mandela, endure hell to build a better world for everyone else.